Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep Abarigani to my Africana Studies colleagues, contemporaries, and seekers after the truth all. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I've always found goodbye is traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we are worshiping with our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church at 8916 South Main Street, right here in the city of Los Angeles. And you're welcome and invited to come and worship with us at any time that you are in the area or the Spirit leads you to come. Someone go where some good church is today. Come on by wherever Martin is at. And they always say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. And surely God has blessed our fellowship and our communion. And let me also hasten to add that this Sunday, November 12th, I will celebrate my 50th year in pastorship at the same church, 50 years. And we thank God for that milestone. You don't get that but once. And I want to thank the city officials that have acknowledged our ministry and our work and our efforts in the cause of Christ here in Los Angeles. Like I said, you only do 50 one time. You ain't coming back. And so I thank God for that. This offering that you are looking at is entitled It's Time, and it is a social justice offering. I have to stress that because sometimes we get off on a tangent. But this is a social justice offering. We attempt to adjust the economic and the environment, and God knows we're doing a very poor job on both of those areas. And of course, the environment, we're burning it up, we're corrupting it, we're polluting it, we're bombing it out of existence, and all of that. And when we stop doing the bombs, then we start pouring all of our waste and the like things into the bosom of the earth. And finally, someone has come up with a law to try to ban fracking all across this nation. And it's long overdue, because you can see how the water sources are becoming polluted in Flint, Michigan, and this year in Jackson, Mississippi. Then you can see that water is going to be a problem going forward, because we're not doing anything to conserve our resources. We're polluting everything right here in the state of California. The corporations up north just wastefully waste water in the production of cocoa. Nestle's up there, and they have the state waterworks water board tied around their fingers, so they take the bulk of the water that should go to the farmers up on that end, but so much of it is wasted by Nestle's in the process of the production of their product, and their product ain't that good for them to be wasting water like that. And so now I'm off on a tangent. All right, now let's address the things that we came here to address today. All right. The United Nations and the State of Israel was started in the same year that David Ben-Gurion came back to Palestine. The Geneva Convention was signed. The Geneva Convention is what we know is what we go by when nations are at war or attempting to go to war, and we say that we apply rules. So you just can't do any and everything that you want to do. In other words, if a person once the pilot jumps out the plane, well, you can't keep shooting at him. or her, whoever the case may be. And if you see them on the ground and you're a soldier and they're the enemy soldier, you just, if they are waving a red flag, then you can't just kill them because you don't want to take no prisoners that day. You got to have a Geneva Convention. Granted, there was no Geneva Convention during the Civil War, and here in America, and there have been no Geneva Convention in any of the wars. The Geneva Convention is an attempt to civilize that which cannot be civil, which is war. And that is a impediment, and it is a dilemma in the present Israel-Hamas war. You can see both of them have tossed the Geneva Convention behind their backs. But cooler heads are attempting to prevail in order to get beyond this slaughter and this massacre of a bunch of people who have been oppressed for 75 years, speaking of the Palestinians. Who were they being oppressed by? Were they being oppressed by the people who call themselves Jews? And that's a debate that must be debated. Who is a Jew? And of course the Bible says, thou hast tried them who say they are Jews and are not, and has found them liars. As a matter of fact, I was looking at Revelation this week. Let me look at my text I had here, Revelation 2 and 9, and not that it'll help you, but it's just something that I found, and I know that you have wondered, or you are wondering, scratching your head trying to figure out what's going on over there. And here's what the scripture says in Revelation chapter 2, verses 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews. Anti-Semitism, and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. So you're justified in wondering and wanting to get some kind of clarification. Which set of Jews are Jews? You know, you got the Jews in Ukraine, and you got these Jews down here in Israel, and it looks like the United States is hell-bent to supply the needs of both sets of Jews. Now, which one of these are really Jews? Are the Jews in Ukraine, or are the Jews in Israel? And you know, this thing has gone on now for several weeks, and as the politicians like to say, the cost of blood and treasure that we find ourselves just pouring out. The treasure, the spigot, like the United States is sending money overseas with both draw's legs, to use a old metaphor, colloquialism. And you can't keep running wars that you say you can afford, Janet Yellen. But here at home, where the bill has got to come, we're getting more in debt, and we're going to have to start cutting veterans benefits, Social Security benefits, not to mention the SNAP. I always go to that, and food stamps and those things that people need here. People here need home or shelter, homeless. You got a lot of homeless here. Thank God for Karen Bass for what she's doing, Mayor Karen Bass over in Los Angeles. But you can't do the job by herself. It's going to have to take a national lift. And believe me, it is the poor that pay for these wars. The defense contractors are very happy because they're making money hand over fist, and they have strategically located their factories in the various states that have the senators in the U.S. Congress that they can then go to and say, well, now we're producing this weapon in your state, and we're producing this weapon. For instance, they produce a certain portion of the of a ship or of a plane or of a tank or munitions in, like, say, in the state of Mississippi. Then they got so much that they do maybe in New York, or they scatter it all around, so that in the strategic states where those votes are, those arms manufacturers and defense contractors, they have their headquarters, and they build their factories, and they manufacture, and they get their government contracts, and those senators that sit in the Congress vote on those contracts because they know that this portion of that contract is going to come to Mississippi, or this portion of that contract is going to come to Alabama, and so with that arrangement, and believe me, it is a cunning arrangement, while they're able to control the votes, they being the defense contractors and munitions manufacturers, because 40% of the arms sold in the world are produced right here by the United States of America. That's why we have all of these wars and rumors of wars, is because there's big money in war. And not only in the munitions, but also where? On the health care, because if you shoot a person or you wound a person or a person gets injured, they've got to have health care. And with the wounds that they're receiving from these weapons, these modern weapons, they really need health care. Who's also into the health care field? Why, the munitions manufacturers. They're diversified. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Read all about it. You're being played. And you need to wake up and stop allowing these people to get in our pockets like that. Not to mention, these wars have to be financed, and so the United States can't keep floating bonds, war bonds in the United States, in the country proper. So what do? They borrow from other countries. One of our big borrowers is who? Why, China. The last time I looked, we were $5 trillion in debt, and that was over 2 years ago. You can imagine how far we have sunk in debt to China with these forays into Ukraine and these forays into Israel and these forays into Sudan and the other like places where we are at war or fomenting war. Yes, we, the United States of America, foment wars. Because, why? We get to bomb everything, blow everything up, and then we have the option to come back and build it, rebuild the bridges, rebuild the roads, rebuild the hospitals, you know. So it ain't just that the defense contractors are making money. After the war, those who are diversified, and please believe me that these people are well diversified. You take the example of Halliburton, which was run at one time by Dick Cheney, who left Halliburton and became Vice President of the United States and did very well. He motivated, he fomented the Iraq War, and we passed that line and said Iraq had something to do with 911. Come to find out, Iraq ain't had a damn thing to do with 911. We said that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we went over there and bombed everything and killed a lot of people, killed the innocent civilians, just like the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. And did we find any weapons of mass destruction? No. Why? There were no weapons of mass destruction. And we come to find out that the people that actually perpetrated 9/11, that they were much against Saddam Hussein, as Saddam Hussein was against them. But we believed a lie. And we destroyed a nation that had done us no harm. In fact, it was a nation that we had supplied the nerve gas to, that they in turn released on Iran. And if you notice that Iran's name is being floated as being the power behind Hamas and behind Hezbollah. And all of these types of claims are being floated so that the public can be deceived again into yet financing another foray into another foreign war. And it's always these old fellas, these old timers, that go to start war, but their sons don't go to war, their daughters don't go to war. It's your children and mine that have to go fight these wars and get wounded and get crippled and go back talk about my country, right or wrong. That's rather a blind philosophy. I think it's time that we open up our eyes and began in this 2023 year to at least begin to recognize the duplicity to which we have all been subjected to. We've been exploited. And just like the British, with that Balfour Declaration, deceived the Arabs, telling them that we're going to give you this land, and then they would tell, at the same time they were telling the displaced Jews who have been scattered all over the world, and that we're going to give you this land. Then they went and got with the French and made the Sykes-Picot Declaration or treaty for them to govern that same land. 3 different countries, Britain with its duplicitous ability to divide and conquer people, was able to foment 3 nations into believing that they were going to get Palestine. And in the end, didn't nobody get Palestine. But the Jews demanded Palestine. They began to buy land over there and began to oppress and deceive, not deceive, but to murder and take the land. That's what, just as the Americans did to the Indians over here, as the so-called Ashkenazi Jews began to come back into the land of Palestine. Remember, that land was not vacant. There was no land without a people. There were Arabs there. There were people there who had been there for centuries. And we can talk as we will about whose land it really is, but the truth is that there were people there. And unless you can prove that God told you to go somewhere and just slaughter people and butcher people, in this modern day, you don't do things like that. But we keep hearing this, we're better than that. Well, why, if we're better than that, why are we financing that? All right, but again, I digress. But I started out talking about the Geneva Convention, which was started in 1948, and then at the same year that the Jewish state was created. And we said that we had rules of war. The International Red Cross was created, or had been created. Red Cross by that time was very old, because it had started the International Red Cross. Well, not the International Red Cross, but the Red Cross had actually started during the Civil War. And by that time, it had grown to become the International Red Cross. And there were certain, as we say, rules that were supposed to be followed and adhered to by every nation state that went to war. First, again, if you remember, at that time was George Bush, the father. He went to the United Nations, and he called it the Coalition of the Willing. And at least they gave the veneer, the appearance that they were trying to adhere to the Geneva Convention before they attacked Iraq. That was on the first, on Bush #1. And then when Bush #2 got in there, that's when they really went after the oil in that part of the world, because they said that was the purest oil and the lightest oil and the richest oil on the face of the earth. And that is what they were after. They were after the oil because the war followed the course of the pipeline followed the course of the war. And so you can't say that it was not about oil, because why is it that the war followed the pipeline? All right, let me get on to my stuff here now. And so you can see, as we get ready to come into the roundhouse, that nobody's following the Geneva Convention. Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his government are saying that they are in the right because of the fact that the Palestinians slaughtered and butchered so many of their people, and that is true. And what they really should have done was conducted the investigation and arrested the perpetrators, because it looks like the Netanyahu cabal are very familiar with all of the players. So it looked like they would have done better to just let the criminal courts take the lead and arrest people and conduct investigations and like that, rather than risk the scorn of the entire world and by this wholesale slaughter that they are perpetrating against the Palestinian children. Because you could say, well, Hamas, well, what does a Hamas look like? But you're killing Palestinian babies. You're killing Palestinian children. You're killing Palestinian men and old women. And yet you say you're killing Hamas. Well, if everybody is Hamas, we're committing the same tactics that the United States used in Vietnam. Everybody that we killed, we say, well, that's the KIA. He was the enemy. Might have been a baby. It was a lot of babies. It was a lot of innocent men, women, and children that were killed by us. And once they were dead, we said, well, that's a KIA, killed in action. You can't tell a Viet Cong once he's dead from anybody else. He's just dead. And so this dubious identification process is nothing but a label, a smokescreen, to try to justify the unjustifiable. And these types of tactics and pressures, excuse me, my phone is always ringing at the wrong time. You know, we're supposed to be more sophisticated than that, because, you know, I've been to war. I know how treacherous and how the body count was made during the Vietnam War. 5 minutes? Okay. And I know that we weren't in the right over there. That's why when I come back, I was against the war, because I had seen what we did. And don't fool yourself. We're doing the same thing in all of these other places, under all of these other conditions, where we try to put on the front that we are just and patriotic and self-righteous and holy and godly. Don't believe the hype. It's what I told you at the beginning. We make money off of these wars. We pay bills off of these wars. We acquire more real estate off of these wars. We got bases, the United States talking about that we has bases all around the world. We are on the continent of Africa. We're in Kenya. We're in Nigeria. But we're not there as the Chinese are. The Chinese are there building hospitals and building roads and building railroads and building dams and building airports. What are we doing? In place of us coming in there, and which we were there before the Chinese, come to think about it. But we are just what? Exploiting the resources of the continent of Africa. We're getting our coltan and our lithium for our cell phones from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and we're also extracting it from Nigeria and all of these other places on around the world where we can find great deposits at cheap and low prices. And we put that in our iPhone and we say, well, wow, we are so great at people. Well, no, we're not that great at people. We are the same colonizers that we have always been. And I have to accept my portion of that responsibility because my tax dollars are funding these wars, you see. And my tax dollars are being used to bomb Palestinian children and bomb Palestinian hospitals and bomb Palestinian refugee camps. And I fear that type of repercussion because there is a God, and I do fear God. And I fear we're going to have to answer to God for not speaking up to our nation. My country, right or wrong, that won't stand. Because Proverbs 14 and 34 rather, says righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And any people means the United States. Any people means Israel. Any people means France. Any people means Germany, Belgium, Russia, Ukraine. Sin is a reproach to any people. And you can't hide behind, I'm doing this for my country. No. You know you're wrong. And you know you're sophisticated enough to put two and two together. And the like. All right. And I'm going to close out with the fact that the United States is on the Permanent Council in the United Nations, which means it has veto power over any resolution passed by the other countries. The United States, China, Russia, United Kingdom, and France were the what you call the original allies that came out of World War II. And so they formed the United Nations out of the remnants of the League of Nations, and that's where we got the doctrine. In 1948, began to talk about Geneva Conventions and all of that, and we're not doing a good job of it. All right. My time is up, and thank God that the strike is over. I heard Fran Drescher today talking about the conditions and the agreements that they were able to wring from the management, and so it looks like they're going to accomplish their task of getting a just wage and getting just benefits for themselves and for the people that are just coming into the field of acting or into those other fields of directing and writing. All right? Again, if you are working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. Love you. Have a good weekend.